This is the power of trust. Here's how people buy. If they don't know you at all, but you come at them with a really good ad and it speaks to a very specific pain point and it's priced really, really well, chances are you're going to make a couple of sales, right? You don't always have to know and like everyone that you buy from, but if they speak directly and it sounds amazing, people buy from you. Now, if you're selling something a little bit more expensive, people tend to want to know who you are. They tend to want to like you before they buy. And so if they know you and maybe even like you, if you're persuasive enough, they'll buy from you. But if you want to sell something really high ticket, people have to trust you. They're not going to spend money on something who they don't know. Once you build that trust, it doesn't really matter what you sell anymore because people have already built the confidence around the fact that whatever you deliver is good and it's going to speak to their needs directly. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Empire Secrets. I wanted to talk about trust today. And I don't know how many of you guys follow Maria Wendt. I think she's just like such a great person, phenomenal marketer. And I love that she kind of plays by her own rules. She does her own thing. You don't typically see her in groups with other big entrepreneurs, big names. I feel like she kind of does her own thing, lives in California with her daughter and her sister. And I am in a few of Maria Wendt's things. I'm in her coaching Facebook group. I bought a few of her courses. In fact, the other day I went through her ads course and I thought it was really well done. And the thing that I love about Maria is that she is very like no BS, straight to the point. Her courses are basically her on Zoom. There's no like pomp and circumstance to anything that she does. And I want to talk about something that happened in her group yesterday that I thought was mind blowing. And to me is like an amazing case study of what it means to build trust and how it pays off to build that trust. So the post that I want to talk about from her Facebook group is somebody wrote on the Facebook group and said, the irony of buying a copywriting course and not even reading the sales copy. And the amazing thing is not only did this person buy without like even really reading the sales copy at all, but they also encouraged or invited a lot of other people to reply to that post and say the same thing. And they said like, oh my gosh, I bought the course. I didn't even read the sales copy. I just hit buy. I just hit purchase and people, bought the upsells and missed the upsells, whatever it was. But people were talking about the upsells even more than the course itself. And I was so fascinated by that. I can't remember how many people commented on the post. I think maybe like 20 or 30 people saying that they had just bought and they hadn't read the sales page copy. And obviously, like this is happening within Maria's group. So it's people that follow her and love her and know her. But my comment on that thread was, this is the power of trust. Because here's how people buy. So if they don't know you at all, but you come at them with a really good ad and it speaks to a very specific pain point and it's priced really, really well, chances are you're going to make a couple of sales, right? You don't always have to know and like everyone that you buy from, but if they speak directly and it sounds too good to be true and it sounds amazing and it's very, very sexy, people buy from you. I have bought many a cheat sheet, many a whatever little thing off of an ad, and I can't remember who I bought it from. I don't remember that I bought it typically until I'm like running through my numbers like I did for 2024. So there's like that sort of category of purchases that we make that are typically low ticket. It doesn't really matter who it's coming from because it sounded so good. And I'm like, okay, I have to have this. Now, if you're selling something a little bit more expensive, people tend to want to know who you are. They tend to want to like you before they buy. And so if they know you and maybe even like you, if you're persuasive enough, they'll buy from you, right? So if at a higher ticket than low ticket. But if you want to sell something really high ticket, people have to trust you, right? They're not going to spend money on something on somebody who they don't know. Like most people don't do that. And so the idea is that once you build that trust, it doesn't really matter what you sell anymore because people have already built the confidence around the fact that whatever you deliver is good and it's going to speak to their needs directly. And so, of course, in this case, it was a $97 course. We're not talking about thousands of dollars that Maria's students spent without reading the sales page copy, but it's the idea that Maria has built so much trust because she's showed up consistently, because she's given a lot of value, because she's shown that she cares. And this is the two big pillars that I talk about in the brand video, is that you show people that you care and you show people that you get them on a very deep level. So if you are able to do both of those things, people trust you. And if it's not too expensive, they don't have to give a whole lot of thought to buying what you're selling and to trusting that it's going to be good and they're going to need it and they're going to use it. And so that is the intro story to this episode of Empire Secrets, where I want to talk about what it means to build trust. In the case of Maria Wendt, this example that I'm talking about, I want to share with you that the reason I started Brand Magnetic and all of this movement around having a brand video, having a single 2 to 3 minute video that really tells your story in a way that creates instant personal and emotional connection with your audience, is because I have felt and I know that a lot of business owners don't have the bandwidth, don't have the team members, don't have the energy to show up as much as Maria does. And I do think she has a 1 or 2 team members. She doesn't have a massive team, but I think she kind of enjoys showing up on social media. Not everybody does, right? It takes a lot of work to be consistent on social. And you're also like building, your audience on a borrowed land, TikTok's future is a little bit in the balance here. And so my point today is to talk about how I wanted to create an asset that would help people who didn't want to show up all the time, who were tired of having to post on social media all the time. And then tired of they had worked so hard to get people into their system, getting leads into their email address, and having people fall by the wayside. The leaky bucket issue, where people abandon your email list after a while. And so some of you know, I would love to share with you a little bit more about why I started Brand Magnetic and why I'm obsessed with brand videos. My background is in documentary filmmaking. I spent 15 years. I started out at the New York Times. I was an intern in my master's back then. Previously, I had been a photographer, photographed, the conflict in the Middle East. Photographed some stuff in Brazil and in Europe as well, in France. And then I decided to start doing video because I was obsessed with the idea that I could actually incorporate not only, more of the story as told by the people who were living it. And that was the thing that really drew me to video. And then ultimately, I was even more drawn to documentaries, because to me, documentaries are this thing that you watch, and it's about somebody that is not from your universe, or like a completely different reality most of the time than what you live. If it's well done, you have shifted your perspective on that person's life and on that person's reality, and you can become a bit more compassionate about what they go through. And ultimately, hopefully, it does inspire you to take action in some way. Not all documentaries do that, but it inspires you to feel like you could help, or you could empathize at the very least with somebody else's reality that you wouldn't necessarily have any sort of empathy for or really care about before watching this documentary. So this is why I got into documentaries. I was, at the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and Time Magazine, and then ultimately at NBC for 5 years. Throughout that time, I had this itch. I knew that I wanted to have my own business someday. To me, I really didn't understand how that would fit with being a journalist and being a filmmaker and traveling the world and telling amazing stories and winning an Emmy and doing this amazing work that I loved doing. How does that really fit with having a business? Yes, I could become like a professional doc filmmaker and, win awards and sell my film to Netflix or something like that. But between you and me, that is actually a really hard way to make a living. I know a lot of friends who have sold their documentaries to Netflix and still kind of live paycheck to paycheck. And so it sounds more glamorous than it is. And I knew that I wanted to be in charge of my own money and my own destiny and not have to answer to a client or a boss or to Netflix. And so the kind of turning point for me, the really beginning of the end of my career, if you will, was when I had negotiated my raise at NBC, and it took me a whole year to negotiate that raise. It was a significant raise. It was, I think, about 30 or 35% increase in my salary at the time. And she told me, Mariana, you either accept this offer that I'm about to tell you, or you're going to have to start your negotiation from scratch with the next person that comes in. And I was like, oh my gosh, we've already been talking for months. I don't want to start this process over. I accepted the offer, and I also made a commitment to myself that I was never going to put myself in a situation where I had to negotiate for a whole year to get a raise. And so with that conviction, I knew that at some point I was going to have to leave that really awesome cushy job that I had at 30 Rock and start my own business. And I didn't really know what it was. And so I knew that I kind of was really attracted to the online space, and I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I knew that I felt like these were my people. I felt like they were people who really understood storytelling. They understood how to bootstrap a business without needing to apply for grants or get funding or angel investors or any of that. And I love the idea of building a business around your expertise and everything else that's just part of any business, right? Where you have to really give the market what it's looking for. And so ironically, I feel like I'm giving the market with my offer of brand videos, not what it's necessarily looking for, but 100% what it needs. And the reason I came to that conclusion was because the more I started investing in learning digital marketing, the more, just like, this is going to be so relatable, the more I started getting ads and getting fed all sorts of content around digital marketing. So essentially everyone who had a course, everyone who had a lead magnet, everyone who had some sort of freebie or offer or whatever, I get your ads. I'm very well targeted at this point. And even back then, right? So when I was just starting this. And so the algorithm like picked up right away, and this is the girl signing up for stuff. And so the more I signed up for things, the more I realized I couldn't keep track of who everyone is. And so people would start like showing up in my inbox. I was like, wait, who is this person? What's their deal? No, I'm not one to open welcome sequences. Like if I signed up for something from you, chances are I have forgotten who you are by the time you land in my inbox. And I really believe that that is what happens in digital marketing, especially with more and more people coming into the space, whereby people are forgetting who you are so quickly, even if you have a big name. Like, I'll give you an example. I started following Gemma Bonham Carter, who was on the podcast last week, through her lead magnet of her 100K launch emails. And it took me forever to remember, if you will, who she was. And it took me probably a good 2 years until I finally bought something from her, which was this year. And so if you look at that sales cycle, that is insane. Like, she's a very talented woman. I'm so excited to be in her universe now. But the fact that it took me 2 long years to convert into her offer is pretty mind-boggling. And now, obviously, it doesn't take 2 years for you to convert into anybody. You know, it could be shorter time than that. But typically, studies show that it's 6 to 18 months is kind of the norm that it takes to nurture people. But what happens is people are forgetting who you are at the very beginning of that touch point. And so because I was experiencing that, I was immediately, my eyes were open to what a waste of that first initial magical curiosity moment. And I'm still kind of figuring out a name for it. But that first moment when people connect with you because they saw your comment on a Facebook post, or they saw you showed up somewhere for them, or they were referred to you by somebody else. And that is the moment that they are actively, out of their own free will, wanting to answer the question of who you are. They want to know who you are in that moment. This is why your About Me page is the second most visited page on your website. Now, if we are not curating the answer to that question, the answer to the question of who we are and what we're about, we are leaving money on the table, my friends. So this is what I combined everything I know about intimate, beautiful storytelling and wanted it to take that into a video that would actually communicate the value of that for that cold audience, that person who barely knows you, who's coming into your universe for the very first time. And so this is how the brand video was born. Before, I was doing short documentaries where this is exactly what I was doing. I had to pack somebody's life story into 2 to 3 minutes, into 4 minutes. First of all, I had to build trust with them very quickly. I had to get them to trust me that I was going to do their story justice, that I wasn't going to distort what they were sharing with me, that I was really going to highlight the things that were most important about this story. And more specifically, that I knew which parts of their story was going to make the most impact with the person watching in that short amount of time. And so my entire 15-year experience came into, this beautiful full circle moment when I realized that in the online space, we are not utilizing the power of video and the power of our story in a way to create that instant personal and emotional connection with people who are meeting us for the very first time, who are connecting with us for the very first time. And so this is why I have built an entire business around brand videos. This is why I'm so excited about brand videos. And I am thrilled because I've just confirmed a couple of new opportunities. So tomorrow I'm going to be recording on Ellen Yin's Cubicle to CEO podcast. So in her podcast, she takes people who are willing to talk about like insane case studies that they have experienced themselves. So it's not their client case studies, it's their own case studies. And for me, I have two that I shared with them that they accepted in my pitch. And the first one is that my second to the last launch and my last launch, so between those two launches, I had a 600% revenue increase because on my last launch, I released my own brand video. And I had students who watched that brand video, or future students, I guess, people who watched that brand video and who immediately reached out to me and said, this is it, I'm in. I get it now. I see your heart. I see your vision. I see your passion for this. And I get how this works because it just worked on me. In fact, I've had students over and over tell me that they have watched different brand videos that we have done for our clients. And they said, I have no idea who this person is. I don't actually need their services, but I am so touched by their story that now whoever I come across, like whichever of my friends that I think could benefit from their services, who could, be touched by their work, this is the person that I'm now thinking about for them. And so whether it was like a personal connection or the fact that they now look to this person who was a complete stranger 2 minutes ago before watching their brand video. And now this is a person that they consider an established, amazing, incredible person who happens to be an expert and who happens to be able to help in that area. So the second case study that I want to share with them is that I had people who listened to me on a podcast, watched my brand video, and immediately DM'd me to work with me at my highest level, my done for you brand video signature service. And off of one podcast, I made over $30,000 because of that sort of buyer journey that I just described. So it's happened over and over on different podcasts, but out of one podcast alone, generated over $30,000 of business for me. And so anyway, I'm excited to share all of that. I'm excited to share more about what brand videos are, why I decided to create this company, which is what I wanted to share with you today. Case studies, and case studies. Like so many amazing stories that have come from students of mine, from clients of mine around creating this one video. And here's the thing. I know it's actually, I never say that it's simple to create a brand video or that it's easy to create a brand video. It's simple in that the framework that I've created is very simple, but it's actually, you do have to put effort into it. The beauty of it though, is that you create one video. It's one single video that lives in so many different places of your universe and of your funnel. And it lives there for years. So you're making the investment to create one thing, one asset that is now a forever asset in your business. And I always joke, unless you decide to dye your hair purple, or unless you decide to completely pivot who your audience is and what your offer is, your brand video will work for you for months and months and months, most likely for years and years and years. And so I am so excited to share more about what this journey looks like, why the heck this works. Hopefully you were inspired by sort of how I came upon this, like why I decided to invest my entire life work into brand videos. I absolutely love documentaries, and yet I love brand videos even more. I think that I'm able to help people whose businesses need to be highlighted. I see so many talented people who struggle with visibility, who struggle with getting leads to stay on their email list and not unsubscribe, who struggle to be remembered, who struggle with like a really lengthy sales cycle where it takes so many months of nurturing and so much content and so many emails to get people to finally be ready to buy from them. And a brand video accelerates that process. It really shortens that process because every time you show up, people feel like they already know you, that you're somebody that they already like, and now they're excited to hear from you. They remember you so much more. That creates those same feelings in your audience. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Empire Secrets. I did this live on Instagram at the same time, so hello if you were tuning in there. This episode of Empire Secrets drops tomorrow. Drops today if you're listening on the episode. And I will see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Share your story with me. DM me on Instagram. I'm at Brand Magnetic. DM me your story. I really love hearing what people are all about. And I think that one of the things that I notice with a lot of people is that they don't actually know what parts of their story to share. And so if you haven't grabbed my cheat sheet yet, I have the ultimate cheat sheet to a brand story that converts. And it helps you understand which parts of your story are the ones that are going to create that most trust in one go. So grab that if you haven't yet. It's at brandmagnetic.com/cheat sheet. And I will see you on the next episode of Empire Secrets. Bye for now.